This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended to cause or induce breach of an existing agency agreement.
Hello? 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 This is the Vancouver
Commercial
Real Estate Podcast.
And welcome back to the Vancouver Commercial Real Estate Podcast. I'm Cory Wright.
And I'm Adam Scalina, your sometimes guest host. And Cory, you're looking fit. Can't believe it. You're wearing the William Wright Whistler shirt 2023. Did Whistler get postponed this year or what? Or there was a golf trip that was postponed, I think.
You didn't get the invite?
Oh, man. So it only got postponed to me and Matt or what?
I swear you guys are on the list.
Oh boy, this is awkward.
We'll talk after recording. But yeah, June 7th to 9th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, June 7th to 9th. You'll get the William Wright Whistler 2024 shirt.
Nice. Nice. Fantastic. We got a great show today. We have Josh Gaglardi from Orion Construction. He's the president and really bright guy. Really enjoyed having him on the program.
Tremendous. So you remember we had Cam on recently, who joined us there from Orion Construction, talking more about the company side of the business. We had David Bash on from Astria, which is also kind of tied into the Orion story. But Orion Construction had started in 2018,
right?
And by 2024 was the fastest growing company in all of Canada. And we're talking tech companies, real estate companies, construction companies, any company you can think of.
It's wild.
The story is absolutely incredible. So after we had Cam on, we're like, we got to get Josh on the show. We got to dig into this, find out how does one even do that?
Yeah, and we talk about the origin of Orion Construction, how they've managed growth, how they use the market to inform strategy, areas for opportunity. Where is Josh really excited about right now? We cover that in the show. So lots of amazing takeaways today. One thing before we get to this conversation with Josh, Cory, I understand that we gave away some Nickelback tickets on the show.
Did we? Did we give them away?
Yeah. How did it go? You actually were the one who was coordinating that.
Yeah. So we picked the winner, and I probably won't say her name on the recording here unless she wanted me to. And we contacted them, and I kind of felt bad because when I was introducing myself, they got really excited on the phone that they won. I felt bad. I was only giving them Nickelback tickets. I felt like I should be giving them a trip to Maui or something. They were getting so excited. So it was awesome. We actually got to meet the winners because we gave away the tickets, and then we found out that the winners actually knew some people who worked at William Wright Commercial. So somehow they managed to sneak their way up from the front row into our box there for the show. So it was awesome. We got to meet them. They're great people, and we obviously appreciate them listening. But Nickelback show was amazing. Just absolutely, I don't know what to say.
It was good, eh?
Honestly, I never drink. I was hungover from till Wednesday, and the show was on Friday. It was just amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I had my Nickelback shirt on. Yeah. I had the whole thing. I think I dragged about a handful of the William Wright team with us to come there. For some people that had done some really, really big deals as of late to celebrate. I dragged them to the show, which I'm sure they probably thought they were in trouble. Why are we going Nickelback? It was just amazing.
Excellent.
Absolutely amazing. Don't know more to say.
Well, without further ado, why don't we cut to our conversation with Josh Gaglardi? This is a great one.
Enjoy, guys. This podcast is presented by Impact Commercial.
Impact Commercial, John, Alan, the team over there are fantastic. They've all been on the show.
They have, yeah.
Friends of the show.
Great guys.
Wealth of experience. They can help with all your commercial financing needs.
Whether it's owner-occupiers, land development funds, commercial investments, or multifamily, these guys got you covered.
And they recently obtained their CMHC correspondent lender status.
So for all your commercial lending needs, visit them at impactcommercial.ca.
That's impactcommercial.ca.
Okay, so we're here with Josh Gaglardi, president of Orion Construction. How you doing, Josh?
I'm really good, guys. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yes, thanks for taking the time today. We know you got a busy schedule, but maybe for our listeners that don't know you, Josh, or Orion Construction, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Josh Gaglardi. I'm the president and founder of Orion Construction. Orion is Lower Mainland's design, build, contractor, leading design build contractor. Our core business is design build commercial construction. Last few years, we've expanded our services to be outside of just purely base building commercial and industrial buildings to also include tenant improvements. And as well, we launched a multifamily division last October. We've expanded our service offering as well geographically. Traditionally, we have served the Lower Mainland and continue to serve the Lower Mainland, but recently we've expanded onto Vancouver Island with multiple projects in Colwood, Langford, and then as well into the interior in Kelowna and Kamloops.
Josh, why real estate? Like, how did you get into construction?
Yeah, I didn't really have too much choice. My dad's contractor, my uncle's a contractor developer, my brother's contractor. So I've been on a construction site since I've been 13. So it just seemed like a natural fit for me to sort of progress my way through it. Yeah, and then in about 6 years ago, I started Orion Construction.
So, Josh, we recently had some of the people on from both Astria and Orion Construction. You guys have an incredible story. So we wanted to get you on to kind of break this down for our listeners, because a lot of them may not know the history of Orion Construction, but it was 2022, if I was correct. You were named the fastest growing company in all of Canada. Not construction, not just real estate, but all of Canada. Can we maybe talk a little bit? How do you go from point A, starting in 2018, to 4 years later being the fastest growing company in this country? How does that happen?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things at play there. When we were approached to apply for that fastest growing company through Globe and Mail, I knew we had tremendous growth and I thought that we'd place well. They're very cagey, very coy with the rankings. So they actually interviewed us. And I remember at the end of the interview, I was like, well, how did we place? And they said, oh, we can't, until the issue is released, we can't tell anybody where they are. I was like, okay. So I thought about it and I was thinking, man, it'd be really nice if we were top 100. That'd be such an achievement. And then when the issue was released and we found out we were number one, everyone was just so elated. It's such a tremendous achievement. So, that was a really great hallmark and time for our company. We've continued to grow since then. It's not as, it's impossible to keep up that trajectory, but 2018, started the business. We saw, tremendous opportunity in the market here. There's a lot of really well-run and really established construction companies, and especially in the commercial industrial space. And we saw that a lot of these companies were sort of at the end of the founder's career. Maybe retirement was on the horizon, succession planning, and we just thought that if we had a fresh perspective, maybe a better service offering in a growing market, maybe we could take a pretty good chunk of the market share. And that did hold true. We were able to do that through the various competitive advantages that we have. But it wasn't easy. 2018, you're a startup company for the first year, basically begging for work all the time. Lucky to get a couple projects under our belt right out of the gate. And then 2019, worldwide pandemic, that sort of threw us off the rails for 3 years. But on the backside of COVID, the world had changed. It had transitioned to e-commerce and shopping online. And in 2021, there's a tremendous demand for warehouse and light industrial products. So, we are able to capitalize on that. And at the end of the day, I think why we grew so quickly is I just think that, we worked a little bit harder than the next guy. And, everything is timing and luck as well. But I think if you're in the right place at the right time and you're willing to work harder and provide a better service offering than your competitors, you're going to be able to do just fine.
Josh, can you talk about some of the challenges of starting a company, just a couple of years before the pandemic hits, and then kind of riding that wave throughout the pandemic?
Yeah, it feels like it's almost been all challenges, to be honest. You start up 2018, brand new company. You have to convince people to let you be the one who's building for them. And it's quite a sizable investment for either, owner, user, occupiers or developers. And to get their trust and to say, hey, I know we haven't built, for 40 years, but we think that we can do a pretty good job of it. And to get those first couple jobs was a real hurdle. But we were successful in getting a couple jobs under our belt. And then once you've got a track record, it's a lot easier to sort of grow that snowball business.
And what about obviously we hear about construction costs and all the challenges that came out of rising inflation. How has that impacted business, or how has that played in for the last few years for you?
Yeah, and that's had a tremendous impact. We price about 100 to 150 jobs a year right now. So we have a tremendous amount of aggregated pricing data. So we've been pricing costs from 2018 to current, and we graph it and represent it graphically. Using 2019 as a baseline, which is, a pretty steady construction market, we saw pricing go up to 49% over that 2019 costing in 2023, roughly. And then now it's back down to, I think, around 36% above that 2019 baseline. So going through that with clients was very challenging, right? Because you have to explain that there are macroeconomical and geopolitical reasons why the budget that we gave you 6 months ago has all of a sudden changed. But I think our very transparent, open book approach and our very proactive approach on sort of mitigating these costs was very helpful for us to navigate our clients through those challenging times. I'd like to say that we're on the backside of that, but there's still pretty high inflated costs across the board, and we just don't know what's next. We've got potential of tariffs from our neighbors to the south, issues all throughout the world. And the way that the logistics of construction works is most of the stuff comes from outside of Canada. So we've got limited control, but I think just being ahead of the curve on these items and being proactive with your clients and people you're building for and letting them know sort of what to expect and being transparent and open with them helps navigate through those challenges.
Can you talk a little bit about the design side of the business? Like, did you start when Orion started, was it always a design build, or is that something that you've incorporated into the company over time?
No, absolutely. I mean, that is one of our major competitive advantages for sure. When I started Orion, the traditional model, and Cam went into this pretty well in his podcast, but the traditional model was more or less design, bid, build. We sort of turned that on its head a little bit, because by the time we got involved with projects with our clients, there was a tremendous amount of value that we could have added throughout the process in terms of cost savings, value engineering, alternate options, sort of innovative practices. So we sort of said, there's another approach to this, and design build had existed, of course, but I think that we curated it in a way that really fit this local market and allowed transparency to our clients, allowed us to control a lot more of the process and provide a tremendous amount of value to our clients. So, I like to tell our clients that when they hire us for pre-construction, they get our services for free, because the amount of money that we generally save through, and money and time that we save through the process is usually many magnitudes of what we end up charging them.
Josh, you talked about earlier days in the company here and getting one or two kind of jobs. I know companies, when they go through growth, you hit these sort of like these milestone type, when you look back on these milestones in the thing. How do you land your first couple of jobs when you're sitting there, maybe a smaller firm at that time, you're trying to convince these big developers why you? What kind of milestones did you hit early days where you look back on it now and you think that changed our company for the better? This is what happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple projects that really helped us get through that first year. And we got really lucky. One of the clients, Payer Builders, who we built an industrial warehouse for many years before Orion, they had a second phase of their project, and they had put it on hold. And it just so happened in early 2019, they had called up and said, "Hey, this project's been on hold, and we want you to build it for us." And they gave us that opportunity to, that was great. We do a lot of work with Cedar Coast, who's a major local developer. They gave us a project right out of the gate as well. And then there's a third project in Chilliwack. It's on number 3 road on your way to Cultus Lake. That was a 180,000 square foot project. That's quite substantial for us at the time. And they, reached out to us when we had just started Orion and said, we are thinking about doing this big distribution center here, and we'd like to work with you. So those 3 projects out of the gate, those really helped catapult us to success. I mean, you generally, when you start a new construction company, you're starting with a smaller TI, or you work your way up in project value as time goes on, and you can prove your worth. But to have 3 pretty substantial projects right out of the gate, sort of not dropped in our lap, but the opportunity to be involved in those really helped us to catapult and kind of skip the first 2 years of startup.
No kidding.
Sort of call. Yeah.
And how are people typically finding you or deciding to use your services? Like, how do you find projects or opportunities?
I mean, the first 3-4 years I was doing business development all on my own, and we weren't very active in marketing or sales. was mostly just word of mouth, and some clients had heard of us and wanted to see if we were able to provide them some innovative solutions or some cost competitive numbers, or wanted to learn more about our design build process. So it was a lot of word of mouth in the first 3 years, and then recently we've onboarded Cam Archer, who's our director of sales and marketing, and he's done a tremendous job just expanding our reach. So we are now talking and working with more owner users and more developers than I would have thought in the early days, and we've actually got quite a big roster of clients now.
You Orion Construction, you're on the builder side of the project. Recently, we had David Bash on, who heads up the Astria side of the business there for you. Now you've gone from the builder side, which you're still on, but also now crossed over to the developer side. What challenges have you found when you're now being a third-party contractor for a client, where now arguably you're kind of your own client now, trying to build the project for the most competitive pricing and stuff like that? What challenges have you found sitting on both sides of the table now in some of those projects?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Astria and Orion are meant to be complementary service offerings. The Astria approach is very boutique, it's very tailored, it's very specific. It was set up in a way where we don't want to compete with our clients. What we want to do is we want to focus on the smaller projects that don't have the scale for our clients to be interested in. And I think that's where our advantage is there, is we're able to be a little bit more nimble on the smaller projects. And it's not all about return, but it's more about finding, solutions for users and tenants and building out a portfolio of income properties and development properties on the smaller scale. So that's our niche there. The challenges with it, when you're competing in the smaller space, it opens up to a lot more potential purchasers. So we find ourselves competing with owner users often, and owner users, they have traditionally owner user financing, so they can be very competitive.
Yeah.
So you got to be, it takes a lot of opportunities to find the right one with Astria, but we're incredibly happy with the service offerings that we have and the projects under our belt, for sure.
Now, one thing you just touched very quickly there was about the scale of a project, and you'll know 10 times more about this than I'll ever know. But on the brokerage side of the business, we hear a lot about these projects have to get to a certain size just to make the economics of the construction work. How have you seen that scale change over the past 5 or 6 years, where maybe there was, most projects were being done in that 50 to 75,000 square foot range, but now thanks to costs and all the costs that are now levied onto these projects, that the scales change, where now anything under 100,000 square feet is not feasible anymore? How have you seen that table change?
Yeah, I mean, that's just exasperated over time. Previously, when land was more economical and construction costing wasn't as high, it was easier then to make smaller projects work on a lease-based pro forma. But now, you really need the economies of scale on construction to make the lease pro formas work. And a lot of these institutions or developers, they want to lease and hold these assets long term. So we're finding now that the 5-acre sites, which used to be feasible all day long, aren't as feasible as they once were. And, the attention has been turned to the larger sites, the 20, 30, 40-acre sites, which are incredibly hard to find. But some of them do exist out there.
Josh, just wondering how much you monitor the market and how much the market actually, or how the market's performing, or certain asset classes that seem to be performing. Does that inform your business strategy overall, or do you take that into consideration?
No, for sure it does. I mean, we're all over market data and what's going on in the market, because it affects us greatly. So part of the reason to add the multifamily division into the Orion sort of companies was to address that need for rental housing. We are working with clients right now who are targeting that rental housing segment, and there's going to be tremendous demand, obviously, on both condo and leasing rental housing in BC. With the tremendous growth that's happening here. So that was a market data driven decision to get into that asset class. And I think it's going to pay off pretty well for us. Industrial has been strong and continues to be strong. So we're going to continue to grow in that sector as well.
In thinking about the market rental right now, obviously there's been lots of incentives given by the federal government recently. So now it seems like our market rentals penciling now? Like, is it a lot easier to make sense of them with the new regulations and new offerings?
Yeah, I mean, market rental is not unlike industrial lease. So there needs to be a specific scale that can be reached for it to be economical. But I think the increasing revenue is making it more likely to pencil than before. Lease rates are just going up, across the board throughout BC, driven by demand. So I think we'll continue to see rental projects on the horizon.
And Josh, just thinking about geographically, so where are you seeing areas? Are you seeing areas for opportunity right now?
For sure. We're seeing lots of opportunity on the island. We're seeing lots of opportunity in the interior. There's a movement of capital from Vancouver to these other markets where the regulations aren't as challenging. Municipals are generally quicker to respond and move through permitting processes. So your total project life cycle is much, much shorter. So I think there will continue to be demand in those markets. I mean, the overall population is less, so it's hard to scale there, but there will continue to be growth in those markets for sure.
Josh, I'd be curious to get your take on the construction side of things here. Obviously, we've had these, interest rates that have gone, haywire since the low there in January of 2022. You've had construction costs go up. You've had, acquisition costs on land hasn't really seemed like it's got much cheaper. Have you guys encountered or had projects, whether by yourself or by clients, maybe I won't say stalled, but maybe put on hold slightly while these things kind of settle? Or have developers been mostly kind of like head down, we're going to get through this on the other side, and we'll see where we end up?
It's been a tremendously challenging 2 years for sure. I would say most of our clients haven't, for the most part, purchased new development projects in those last 2 years. Many of them have land that they purchased prior to the interest rate hike and before land costs and construction costs increased quite significantly. So those still make sense. So those clients are moving forward with those projects. But in terms of new projects being, land purchased in the last 2 years, we're not seeing a lot of that. And I think that's going to continue on for the near future here.
Maybe as a final question, Josh, just thinking about we're about almost coming up at the halfway mark of the year here. What do you think is going to happen in the commercial market for the balance of 2024 and maybe your thoughts on 2025? And
just so you know, anything you say here, we put into concrete. So whatever you say here, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I have a strong record on podcasts and news outlets of being absolutely wrong in my predictions. So I'm forever an optimist. I think for sure what I'm seeing is that a lot of our clients who maybe wanted to start projects last fall have now said that they do want to start them this spring, summer.
Wow,
so I'm optimistic that we're getting a bit of an uptick in the market, that purchasers and leasing companies are sort of back and looking to do business. If interest rates happen to come down in the back half of the year, I think it's only going to be to our benefit. There's a lot of stuff going on south of the border that may affect that, but generally my outlook's optimistic. I think the end of the summer and the fall are going to be much better than the last two and a half years that we've seen.
Excellent. Well, maybe we'll leave it there, but we do have this segment called the Six Pack, 6 lighthearted questions to end the show. Are you able to stick around for that?
Oh, yeah.
The Six Pack is powered by our good friends over at Red Point Law.
Red Point Law, Cory, Tim, Falco, Scott, and the team. These are great people with a wealth of experience when it comes to commercial closings and private lending. And I just want to say, Cory, not to cut you off, they have a perfect 5-star review on Google.
So for all your commercial legal needs, visit them at redpointlaw.ca with offices in Vancouver and now open in downtown Kelowna. All right, Josh, first question up. A book recommendation for our listeners doesn't necessarily have to be real estate related, but it can be.
Yeah, I mean, lately, one of my favorite books I've been recommending to people is Red Notice by Bill Browder, I think.
Right.
It's an incredibly interesting story of sort of the fall of communism in Russia and the privatization of industry and first-person perspective of, an American entrepreneur who tried to capitalize on that and was eventually pushed out by Putin. But just a tremendously incredible story of, what it's like trying to do business in a different part of the world. Makes you happy that, however challenging our politics are, that they could be much worse.
That's a good way to frame it. How to go on every day. It's interesting. We've actually had that book recommendation on our show before, so I think it's popular among the development community. Question number 2, Josh, favorite band or what are you listening to these days?
Oh, man. I've got a couple. I'm a big Swiftie, so looking forward to seeing Taylor Swift in here in December. But
nice.
But lately, Zach Bryan has been a favorite of mine.
Nice.
And Noah Kahn recently. Some good stuff.
Nice. How did you get Taylor Swift tickets? That's what I'm more interested in. How do you get Taylor Swift tickets?
I wish I could say it was through a raffle on here, but some things that your wife tells you just got to pay for.
All right, next question up. I know you're a busy guy. When you find the time, favorite vacation spot?
That's a good question. I'd say, I've done quite a bit of traveling. With 2 young kids, vacationing and traveling is a little bit different. So what we found that is feasible these days is Mexico. So I think that's the next 5 years of my life. But as these kids grow up, I'm looking forward to exploring more of the States, to be honest. I think that's a pretty cool place and it's pretty huge.
Whereabouts in Mexico are you going? Which side of the water are you on?
We've been in Port of Art, I think 3 or 4 times. So we're pretty comfortable there.
Nice.
Seems safe.
Karaoke song. Somebody hands you a mic while you're out. What are you singing?
Maybe you're drunk in Mexico. Someone gives you that mic.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. I was in this situation recently. What did I play? You know what? I did a Taylor Swift song.
Oh,
I don't remember what it was.
Very nice. Very nice.
I didn't do it well. I do remember that.
All right, next one up here, Josh. You've unfortunately found yourself in a bad situation. You get one last meal before it's all said and done because you're on death row. What meal are you having?
I'm a very simple eater. So I just like a protein, a grain, and some vegetables, and I'm happy with that.
Oh.
Clean.
Yeah, keep it simple.
And last but not least, are the Canucks going to win the Stanley Cup?
That time of year.
They're not going to win the Cup. They're definitely not going to win the Cup. I had a lot of money on Dallas winning this Cup this year, and they're having a real struggle in the first round. But I am looking forward to seeing Canucks Edmonton in the second round. I think that'd be a fun series to watch.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be a great series.
Is the Demko thing a death blow, do you think? Or do they get through the first round?
I think they make it through the first round, but they're not going to make it as far as I had in my bracket. Right. As a Demko, for sure.
Yeah, I think Edmonton would be a tough one to pick. As a Vancouver Canuck fan, I picked Dallas in my bracket to win, which we're down 0-2 there. But again, you got to win 4 games, so we still got time to come back there. But I think if I was a betting person, I think Dallas is going to be a tough team to beat if they can stay healthy. I know they're down 0-2, but I think Dallas is going to be a tough team to beat.
Selfishly, I was living abroad in 2011, so I missed the big riot when the Canucks Boston series went to, I think it's game 6 or 7. But I selfishly would like to see Vancouver make it quite far because I want to see what kind of crazy stuff the city's got in store for us.
Well, apparently too much because they won't let people watch it outside.
It's like, nothing's going on in the city of Vancouver. Speaking of hockey, Josh, we were talking there. Birdie told me that you're a partner in a recent hockey team down here in the Lower Mainland, the Port Coquitlam Trailblazers.
Yes.
It inaugural season last year or the year before?
The expansion team last year was our inaugural season. I think we finished last place. So we got a busy off season, but it's, junior A hockey's fast and it's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to next season.
Well, It's going to get better this year. Unfortunately, it can't get any worse. But expansion, I think, just to be part of that whole process would be tons of fun to see how it all unfolds. And what league are the Trailblazers in?
They're junior A. They're Pacific Junior Hockey League.
Wow. Awesome. Well, Josh, for all of our listeners that want to find out more about Orion Construction and all the amazing project you guys are doing over there, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, we have a good website that can direct you to various directions as needed, but our LinkedIn and our Instagram accounts are very well managed by our team here. So feel free to give us a follow there.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your time today, Josh.
Of course, guys. Great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Josh. Thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. There you have it, folks. Our interview with Josh Gaglardi, Orion Construction.
Really enjoyed that conversation with Josh. Super bright guy, tremendous growth. It's interesting watching a company like that you think about, like, COVID feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
And they basically started almost right before COVID hit.
Totally.
And now they're one of the fastest growing companies in the country, which is wild.
Yeah. And when you look at like their industry too, like when COVID hit, supply chain issues were problems, all that stuff. And that's the construction industry.
Right.
So they're battling through this massive growth that they're doing, but B, they're dealing with supply chain issues and construction cost increases and all of that stuff. To put all of that together and then come out on the other side, where they did, like, literally shot out like a rocket.
Yeah.
And now everyone's chasing them. That's incredible.
It also,
absolutely incredible.
And the other takeaway for me was it just sounds like good communication actually is how they've been able to manage people's expectations over time with all these pain points.
Well, I think the thing too, and I've never been a developer or builder, so I'm only just making an assumption here. But I think when you talk about like the construction industry as a whole, there's probably a lot of layers to it. Maybe there's a lot of like distrust. Maybe you might get wrapped up in it. I've got to know Josh over the past couple of years by attending various events that he's been at and all that stuff. And he's just an amazing, genuine guy. Like a guy like you want to go do work with. And I think that type of approach probably resonates with a lot of clients where everything's, he talks about like the open book side of the business and just kind of putting it all out there. I think clients have a big, creates a lot of trust in them. Obviously, they build great product. I've seen some of the product when they've been completed. It's a phenomenal product that when you kind of put all that in a combination and then you got the design build aspect of it, it seems like a winning formula. And obviously, it's been a winning formula and probably will be for some time.
Cory, before we leave for the day, quick market check-in. How's the Vancouver commercial real estate market doing right now?
Well, you notice we didn't have a recording last week. And no, that wasn't because I was hungover from Nickelback. It was, we are so busy. The industry as a whole, I believe, from talking to a lot of people, it feels like week after week, it's continued to step up and step up and step up. And it's not a matter of just kind of like, oh, I did ad deal this week. It's like, hey, I got 4 listings, I got 3 more under contract. We just removed subjects on 2. Everybody is extremely busy. Now, again, it is market dependent, it's asset dependent, it's price dependent, but things are moving and we're seeing multiple offers on properties, all of that stuff. So it's extremely busy. Interest rates, I think, obviously, if they do start to pull off later this year, I think will only add to that cascading effect that we're feeling. But interest rates haven't really slowed people down, nor has there been like an abundance of inventory. Right. And that was all kind of coming through COVID. And after COVID, there was no inventory. People were worried about the fire sales. Those didn't really happen. So yeah, lack of inventory is still spurring the market. Good product is, we listed a building recently. One of our brokers listed a building in Kamloops that brought multiple offers to the table in under a week. Wow. Right? Investment property. We're talking like $2-3 million properties, not underpriced properties where it's like $700,000. Like these are well-priced properties in today's market, multiple offers. Big projects coming to market now. And Josh talks a little bit about clients that they're working with that maybe had some stuff that was just not on hold, but stalled a little bit now coming to market now. We're getting a lot of those calls on the broker side of the business, a lot of projects coming to market now. So a lot of confidence there. I'm thinking the latter half of 2024 and 2025 are going to be tremendous years out there. So if you're something that you're considering doing, I wouldn't sit back and wait because we're not saying pricing necessarily has gone up dramatically, but activity has, and that will lead to pricing increases as interest rates fall off and lack of inventory is available.
What about, just out of curiosity, because I mean, obviously in the last week or so, we had the federal announcement, the budget and the cap gains. And have you seen any impact on the ground?
Well, here's what I can tell you. There's tons of addendums to contracts flying in, moving closing dates from July, August to like June 20th. So that's happening. I think it's like anything, it's going to create some hesitancy on the sell side where it's like right away, anytime you see anything that's going to impact profits right away, people are like, I'm not going to sell this thing. I don't want to pay this. And then you fast forward 6 months later and this is the cost of doing business in this province. Right. So yes, it will have some impact in the short term, I do believe. And there's a lot of people that are kind of probably frustrated with it. But eventually it's going to just become the cost of doing business. Prices, I think, are going to continue to go up whether we want them to or not. So my philosophy has always been, I'm happy to pay more taxes when I make more money. So I'm like, I've never been one to always cringe if the profits are very high. I'll pay my fair share. I'd rather pay higher taxes on more profit than pay less taxes on less profit. So,
and I also wondered, like I had this thought a couple of weeks ago in anticipation of seeing you this week, but we've got these new tenancy rules. In the residential market, there's going to be some far-reaching implications, I think, because of them. Does that move? Because the investors don't go away. All the money doesn't leave Canada. Does that push more people into commercial real estate?
100%. So when you saw things like foreign buyers tax announcements and all of these things that were thrown at the market, people still want to invest in this province. Right. And when you kind of look at during COVID and even coming out of COVID, not only has Canada probably come across as like a safe haven for investment, but BC pretty much was in a bubble. Like we were rarely affected. And you have a lot more people now that look at BC as a good investment strategy. And I think what happens is as more costs and uncertainty and challenges get levied onto the residential aspect of it from the investor market side, they're going to naturally just kind of peel over into commercial because they eventually still want to invest the money. They still believe in the province that we're in. and they're going to end up in an industrial unit versus maybe 2 or 3 condos.
Right.
Type of thing. And on the flip side of that, I mean, if rents continue to go up at the pace they go up, on that side, it could just outpace everything until the government changes that at some point. I'm sure they will. But I do think you'll continue to see a shift over from people that are in that side of it because they still want to invest.
If people want to reach out or get in touch, how can they get in touch?
They can reach us at our Vancouver office, 604-428-5255. Let us know what you're looking for. We'll put you in touch with the best broker in the province to help find what you're after. They can drop me an email, Cory@williamwright.ca, or they can visit our website, williamwright.ca, and sign up for the latest and greatest news.
Well, have a great week and another great episode coming next week. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we got some good ones lined up, guys. Take care.
Subscribe today.